All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. This is not my typical style of videos, but I figured that this might help some people out because I know that before I shot the match, I was looking for videos. So I'm assuming that if you are watching this video, you're probably somewhat interested in shooting a quantified performance match, and so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So we'll go ahead and cover the gear that I used, and we'll go ahead and jump right into the rifle. So the rifle that I used was this one right here. I was in the practical precision division. There's 3 different divisions. You've got general purpose, so that's mainly guys running like LPVOs, and you can run 30 round mags. I was running practical precision, so it's basically 5.56 gas guns for the most part, limited to 20 round magazines, and there's no restrictions on the optic that you can run. And then you've got open division, so whatever you want to run. If you want to run a bolt gun or a 6 arc, 6 Creed, AR-10, don't really matter. It's open division. You can run what you want to run. So the rifle is the Daniel Defense V11 Pro. It's an 18-inch rifle length gas system, chambered in 5.56. The optic setup that I'm running is the Zerotech Trace Advanced. It's their brand new optic. It is a 5-30 first focal plane. I've got the Trimmer 3 reticle in this one. It's sitting in a Warren MSR precision mount, I want to say is the correct name. And then mounted basically between my turrets is a Zerotech Thrive HD red dot. Just so we'll kind of jump into that in just a second. Running a suppressor. So this is a Reardon. I apologize. This is the Rugged Alaskan 360 suppressor. And then that's on a Reardon Atlas mount, and then underneath the mount it is a Reardon double port brake. I did have a bipod, so this is the Warren Skyline Light bipod, and then that is mounted up to an Arca rail. As you can see, I've got an Arca rail that runs the majority of the rail. So aside from the rifle, the supportive equipment that I ran is this is the setup that I was carrying around. It worked really well because we were shooting 8 stages, and basically you park your car somewhat close and then walk to them as they're nearby. So I've got a Camelback Mule backpack, just an old backpack that I bought off of Facebook Marketplace. I've got 2 bags that I brought with me. So both of them were from Coltac. This is the Whoopie bag in wax canvas. This is the Tricorn bag in wax canvas. Now I only shot with the Tricorn bag. I never even touched the Whoopie bag. I just brought it because I wasn't sure what stages we was running. And it's my first match, and I didn't really know what to expect. But the only bag that I used was this Coltac Tricorn bag, and I had no complaints with it. Done everything that I needed it to do. I used it as a rear bag some. I apologize, my resituating. I had no complaints with this bag. I used it as a rear bag. I used it as a front support bag. Across all kinds of barricades, whether that be improvised prone off of a table, shooting out of a Connex box, big storage contraption thingy, a VTAC barricade. It covered the bases pretty well. On several stages, I was actually able to mount it to the bottom of my rail, the Arca rail, because it's got little Velcro straps on it. So I could take it and mount it directly to the bottom of the rifle. One stage was limited to only one hand. So that made a huge difference, being able to actually mount the bag to the rail. Now, plenty of people got around it without having to mount the bag to the rail, so that wasn't a big deal. It was just something that did help me out on a particular stage. It's just something that I do like about this bag is having those little straps on the bottom. Aside from that, the gear that I brought, let's see, this is straight from the match. So I've got my Ear Pro, just cheap Peltor range guards. So here's the ammo that I was shooting. It's Hornady Black, 75 grain Bowtail hollow point, sandwich bag, And then here's some rolled up painter's tape. There's plenty of that in here. So, painter's tape. So to break it down really simple, the gear that I used was a rifle, a bag, roll of painter's tape, and my cell phone, just so that I could use the Hornady ballistics calculator. And that got me through the entire match. So how I would use this gear is during the pre-stage planning, you would typically have about 5 to 10 minutes. So we would get the range to all the targets. I would take that distance and I would write that. I would write each target's distance with the correlation to the target. So target 1, target 2, target 3. I'd write that down in this field notebook. I would then go off to the side and I would pull up my Hornady ballistics calculator. I would punch in those distance, get my hold, and then I would take the painter's tape and I would wrap that around my forearm and then write what I was supposed to hold across that painter's tape, and that's what I was using to reference my holds. A lot of people was running, you know, actual dope card holders, whether that be an armband or something actually mounted on the rifle. I went just the cheap route because I didn't know which one I would prefer as far as on the rifle or on my arm. And instead of buying a bunch of extra gear, I tried to keep everything really simple. That's why I just brought a roll of painter's tape and a bag and a rifle, and that was my whole setup. And it worked really good. Most of the time I didn't actually have to reference to the dope that was on my arm, but I did like writing it down just because when I wrote it down it helped me remember it even better. Well, I mean, as you can see there, you know, it's just all the targets distances. So that's one bit of advice that I felt served me well, was just keeping it simple, don't overcomplicate it. I was stressed out about the competition to begin with. I'd never competed, so I was slightly nervous, so I tried to minimize the amount of things that I had to be nervous about and try to keep up with. So like I said, just rifle, bag, and a roll of painter's tape. So now my opinions of the quantified performance matches, I think they're phenomenal. I think, now I don't have a lot of experience from competing, but just off of what I experienced at this match, I see a huge amount of practicality for just your everyday, you know, rifleman or civilian that wants to shoot a rifle. I think that if you are able to learn properly and you can put yourself in the right mindset to learn, I think that you can learn just as much from shooting a match as you can from taking a class. Now, if you're like brand spanking new to shooting, you might want to go take a class so that you can get down the fundamentals, you know, muzzle awareness, trigger control, working the safety, just those little things that make a huge difference. But it's little things that you don't have to worry about if you can get that, you know, basically to where it's just muscle memory and you can just focus on the shooting and building a position off the different barricades and whatnot. And you ain't having to worry about those small little nuances, but it's the things that really, really matter. So that's the case that I would highly advise taking a class. Now there were plenty of times where I resorted back to previous classes. So as I've mentioned before on the channel, I do a little bit of stuff with Weapon Snatcher or John Ruge. And so I've taken some of his classes at the Sawmill, which is where this actual match was. So that worked out well. I felt like that was a good benefit in my favor that I'd been out at the Sawmill several times. But there were several times where it's things that he's went over in his class as far as, you know, just different ways to kind of cheat the system, being able to cheat the rifle. Basically, like I'll give you one instance. So you've got your targets and what you can do to save time, because you don't want to dial for each target. That's just time that you don't want to take up by dialing. You want to be sending as many rounds as you can. So you could take basically the middle target, dial for that one. The closer ones you hold under, the further ones you hold over. Just little things like that that most people don't realize, that taking a class from somebody that has tons of experience to pull off of, you can use those things definitely to your advantage. And I felt like that was a huge help. But I feel like I learned a ton just by competing in this competition. I mean, even compared to taking an actual class. So from the practicality standpoint, I think that shooting these types of matches is a big deal and can be super helpful because it's really hard to game it to the point that it's not practical. Now you can add weights to your rifle and that kind of stuff, but for the most part, everything is just really practical. You've got the stress of shooting under the clock, people watching you. You've got targets at different distances. You've got to get those distances, and you know, you've got a very limited time to actually plan for it. So you've got to be really good at pre-stage planning and getting your holds and your dope and your data, so that you're not just sending rounds off into Never Land when it comes time to actually shoot. And the targets were almost never at even distances. You know, it would be 673 and 482, you know, just those oddball distances that you don't have memorized. And so it forces you to think in the moment, you know, maybe I know my hold for this distance, this is slightly more, so I'm gonna hold slightly, you know, top of the target. You know, that kind of things. Like I said, it just forces you to perform on the spot, which is a huge deal that a lot of people don't have the opportunity to, you know, kind of test themselves with. The second huge benefit of these is just meeting fellow people, the camaraderie. So I was really nervous. I'm a shy, very bashful person. So I was really nervous about just showing up to a match by myself without knowing anybody. And actually, one thing that I was really afraid of was showing up to a match and being squatted with a group of guys that all knew each other really well, and then me being the outsider. Funny enough, that's actually what happened. I showed up, and like four or five of the guys in my squad, they were all like really good friends in the shot matches before. So I walked up and I was like, I mean, I was thinking, like, I'm about to be the outsider here. But I mean, as soon as I walked up to the first stage, immediately they turned, hey man, how are you? What's your name? My name's this is so-and-so, this is so-and-so. Is it your first match? You'll have fun. You know, I mean, just immediately, everybody was just super welcoming. It was, I mean, it immediately just calmed me down. Wasn't really stressed about that part of it anymore. So just the people there, they want to see the sport grow. They're there for the exact same reason you're there. Everybody's there to have fun, meet new people, just kind of hang out and enjoy the thing that everybody enjoys doing. So if that's something that you're worried about, I can assure you that's nothing to actually be worried about. Everybody there was super welcoming. They were more than willing to help, giving little tips about how to approach. I didn't bring any binoculars, so they were like, hey man, I've got the glass on target. Go ahead and look through it just so that you can get an idea. Here's the actual ranges, because sometimes the ranges that were listed on the stage weren't completely accurate. So I mean, everybody's just super willing to help. They're tossing bags. You know, if hey, you got a bag, you want to try this bag that I've got. You know, just super helpful. It wasn't very competitive as far as they weren't trying to get an upper hand on you. Everybody was just there to shoot. So it was just a really awesome experience overall, just being around everybody and just the fellow shooters that were involved in the match. Now, as far as complaints, I don't really have any. You know, I mean, there's just everything basically, in my opinion, just kind of added to it. So the match was listed as 100 yards to 800 yards. So most people, you know, that's what they were expecting to do. Well, we get out there and we're shooting the closest target, ended up being 80 yards. So that, I mean, that of course, that wasn't a big deal. But we didn't max out at 800. We actually went out to 1,000. Now, I had no problem with it. I've got my dope on my rifle at 1,000 yards. I was set up very well, about as well as you can be set up with a 5.56 to shoot 1,000 yards. And that was actually one stage that I done really well on. I think I came in 5th out of everybody. I think I was the number 5 shooter. So I performed really well at 1,000 yards. I know it caught some people off guard. They're like, I didn't bring the right rifle to shoot 1,000 yards. Again, just one of those things, just being able to perform on the spot with the unknowns. Sometimes, you know, the people that were supposed to be calling hits, because, you know, while you're shooting, you're typically going so fast that you ain't got time to, you know, confirm hit. So you sit there, I was sitting there just slinging rounds at the target until I would hear somebody holler hit. So there was one stage where I was hitting a target. I hit it, I know 3 or 4 different times. I know for sure 3 times. Pretty sure I got 4 rounds on target before somebody actually hollered out hit. And so I'm sitting there sending rounds. Now, I'm sure, I think they actually called hit. It just wasn't loud enough, and then there's another stage right next to us. And so, you know, there's a lot going on. So you know, occasionally you'll get somebody who's supposed to be calling hits and they don't call it loud enough. And finally, you know, my squad, like I said, I'm a bashful person, so I didn't say anything. I just sending around until they tell me to move on. My squad, you know, they got onto the RO a little bit, well, a lot. You know, they told him holler hit louder, and then actually some of the guys in my squad got on glass, and they were spotting for me and telling me hit. They were actually hollering it out so that I knew, you know, when I got a hit on that target and I could move on to the next one. Again, it's not a big deal. Like one guy told me, because I told him I was nervous before the match, he's like, hey man, your mortgage don't depend on this match. So that's just kind of, that set the tone for the entire match for me. Is, you know, whether I'd come in dead last, come in first, something goes wrong, you know, my mortgage don't depend on this match. I didn't have that much money invested. I was just out there to have fun. So as far as the complaints, I don't really have any. I mean, everything just was what it was. You know, I was just out there to have fun and meet new people, shoot a match. So again, as far as complaints, aren't really any. So my thoughts going into the match, we'll start off with why I wanted to shoot one. And as most of you know, if you've watched the channel, I'm a gun gear photographer. So that's what I do. I take pictures and videos and stuff of guns. But there's a lot of people, and I know a lot of people in the industry that do the exact same thing. And unfortunately, most of them don't shoot. You know, they shoot on a camera, but they don't actually shoot guns. They're not actually about it. You know, they talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk. Now, I've always shot, I mean, since I was 4 years old, that's when I got my first rifle. You know, I've been shooting ever since. I hunt every year during deer season, and then the occasional, you know, varmint hunt or something like that. But I just wanted to up my experience a little bit, and I wanted to actually walk the walk so that I actually know what I'm talking about when these companies send me products to use on the channel and to take pictures and stuff and give out my opinions. I've actually got real world experience with them. I wanted to test myself, I wanted to push myself, I wanted to meet new people. So there's a lot of reasons why I want to shoot a match. I actually wasn't planning on shooting this match. I've got a match next month that I thought was going to be my very first match. And then in the Mid-Tier Snobs Facebook group, somebody posted and was like, hey, for you South Carolina folks, here's a match, take those safe queens out of the safe and knock the dust off. So I was like, oh shoot, that's you know, my local range at the sawmill. So I clicked on it, and the date was like 10 days away. So I was like, shoot. So I went ahead and just signed up for it, because I know a few people that have shot quantified performance matches, and they absolutely love them. I've always thought it looked fun. So like I said, I just kind of a last minute thing, went ahead and signed up for it. I had all the gear that I thought I needed. Like I said, bag, painter's tape, and a rifle. And then I had my round count. So I went ahead and just went ahead and signed up, jumped in the match. Didn't think much about it. So then when I was preparing for the match, to get my gear ready, I had to decide, am I going to film it? Am I not going to film it? I decided not to film it. I just wanted to go just to shoot for myself. Too many times I get almost kind of burnt out by shooting, because I've got to make sure I am mentally, I'm thinking I need to make sure that I've got my camera set up so that I can capture this and make the most of it. And then the whole time I'm shooting, I'm worried about where the camera is, what the frame looks like, what's the shot going to be like, how am I going to edit this afterwards. So like I said, I just left every bit of camera equipment home. I didn't even take a picture on my cell phone. I mean, nothing. I didn't take a single picture or video. And I mean, I absolutely loved it. Now, like I said, one reason was I didn't want to have to worry about my camera and thinking about where the shot was set up. You know, you've got a lot of movement going on. So I wanted to, as soon as it was my turn to go, I wanted to get up there and go. I didn't want to have to run over here and set up a camera, hold everybody up. And like I said, just worry about where the camera was going to be, what I looked like on camera. And then a second point to that was I didn't feel like I could really do a video that was, they gave the match justice as far as the filming, the shooting. You'd have basically just been watching my back. I don't have a trigger cam, so you wouldn't really been able to get a perspective of what I was actually doing. So like I said, I just left every bit of camera equipment home, and I absolutely loved that I made that decision. I didn't regret it at all. I am going to try to film ones in the future. Like I said, this was just my first one, and I just wanted to go shoot it just for myself. But like I said, I'm working on getting a trigger cam, getting that set up, and I'm actually was talking to John Ruge, Weapon Snatcher. He shoots the QP matches as well. And we're actually going to try to shoot a couple together, where there's a few more at the sawmill this year. So we're actually going to try to shoot one or two of those together, and then I'll film his stages and he'll film my stages. Hopefully both of us will be running trigger cams. I know he will. I'm going to try to get one by then. And that way we can just bring a really good amount of exposure and perspective to the QP matches, and I think it'll be something really, really worth watching. So definitely stay tuned for that part. So now, how did I do? I feel like I've done pretty good overall, especially for my first match. So there's 52 shooters. I came 15th overall. So like I said, I was number 15. And then in my division, Practical Precision, I came in 10th. So 15th overall out of 52, and then 10th in my division. Now, like I said, I was super stoked that that was my scoring for my first match. I beat out, you know, over half the people. And that was kind of my goal, was to just score, you know, somewhere in the middle, as long as I was in the top half. People, like I said, scored 15 out of 52, so I was absolutely stoked. I feel like I was pretty good. There are some things that I've absolutely done wrong, and it'll be something that I need to improve on. One of them was, like, I shot the stage backwards. So they give you the stage and they tell you what order to shoot the targets in. So like this stage, it was left to right, and as soon as they said, you know, shooter ready, the beep went off, I went right to left. And I'm sitting there wearing out the target on the right, didn't understand why they weren't calling hits. I'm seeing it hit, I'm hearing it hit, and finally they gave me the courtesy of saying check target, and it clicked. I was like, oh shoot, I'm on the wrong target. So transition over to left. You know, so that kind of little stuff, just kind of losing my composure when the beep goes off. My first stage was actually my best stage. I came in number 3. I was, you know, 3rd place on that stage out of all of the shooters. My first stage, I absolutely smoked it. I don't know what it was. I don't know if I was just so nervous and I put so much pressure on myself and just really performed well. I don't know what it was, but I performed excellent on my first stage. Got the ball rolling really good. Like I said, overall, I felt like I've done pretty good. My positional work needs a little bit of attention. There wasn't too many issues with it. The most of it was just mental aspect, you know, keeping track of what order I was supposed to shoot targets in. I didn't drop any targets except for on one stage. Now, everybody that I talked to before the match, they said just make that your goal. Don't drop any targets. I ended up parring out on one stage. We were the last squad to shoot it. The targets were from 350 to 400 yards. There's 4 targets, and they were little poop emojis. And by the time our squad got to it, I think there was 6 or 7 squads. So a lot of people have been hitting these targets, and they had turned, you know, just gray. All the paint had been knocked off, and the backdrop, or the backstop behind them, was log piles, which were also like a brownish gray color. I couldn't see them, and then I couldn't see where the misses were actually impacting at. So I was just sending rounds into the unknown. I mean, I knew they were hitting the log pile, and I knew I was right there around because I hit the first target, transitioned over to the second one. Like I said, I couldn't figure out where my rounds were hitting at. And so I ended up parring out on that stage. But that was the only stage that I dropped any targets. Everything else, I was able to get all my targets ran by the time the timer, and within the allotted time. So you get 90 seconds per stage. Like I said, I was able to clean all of the stages except for that one. So overall, you know, like I said, I feel like I performed very well, especially for my first match. But there are some things that I need to work on. Need a little bit of maintenance, just so that I'm better prepared next time. So now, what would I change or add? I might, you know, I'll probably go ahead and pick up a dope card holder. I'll go with the armband, just so that I don't have to keep wrapping, you know, painter's tape. That worked excellent. I've got absolutely no complaints with how that worked. It was really easy. And I may just end up continuing to do that, and just, you know, why fix it if it ain't broke? One thing that I did notice, just now sent my bolt home, on the rifles. I was one of the only ones running suppressed out there. That caught me really off guard. Most everybody was running brakes. I think just about every other person out there was running a brake. I saw, I want to say 2 suppressors other than the one that I was running. Now, I feel like I shoot better with the suppressor on the rifle, just because there's not as much action to react to. So like I said, I feel like I shoot a little bit better with the suppressor, but I'm gonna try to just shoot with the brake a little bit more. There's definitely big advantages to that. One of them was this is a lot longer than, you know, everybody else running 18-inch barrels. So simple stuff like maneuvering through like a Connex box, like a sea container, and there's other stuff in there, and you're having to go in and out of, you know, little cutout holes in there. This was just occasionally, there's a few stages where this is a lot, you know, to kind of maneuver through there. I got it done without, you know, without much issue, but having a shorter rifle would have made that just a little bit faster. And then, like I said, when we went out to 1,000 yards. So once we got out there, having the suppressor on, I'd been sending a lot of rounds. So I was having to deal with the Mirage a little bit, and the guys running brakes weren't having that issue. So I might try another match with the suppressor and just put a heat shield over it to cut down on the Mirage. But I may end up just going with the brake. So other than the armband and the suppressor, that's about the only things I would change. Everything else performed really, really well. The bipod wasn't necessary except for on one stage. I only used it on the one when I had to drop into prone, but I could have very easily got by with just the bag. The one time where it did come in handy, as I've actually mentioned this in a video before, is running it backwards. So how I approached that stage, which was the one that went out to 1,000. So I started off at 100 yards and then went out to 1,000 yards. So how I done that was brought the bipod, folded it backwards, and then I dialed for, I think the next, it was let's see, you had 2 targets at 100, then 3 targets at like 4 something, then 2 targets at 600, and then 1 target at 1,000. I want to say is it. No, it was 1 target at 800, then 1 target at 1,000. So the order that you would go in is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 6, and then 7. I want to say. Like I said, that's one of those things. I guess you got to remember it, and it's a bunch of mental stuff. But anyways, I dialed for the next target because I didn't want to have to think about holding under at 100 yards, because like I said, it was 100 yards to 400 yards, or 430 something. I think 434 or 435. So I was able to take the bipod, throw it backwards, and then use this top dot. So it was 1, 2 at 100, then take and throw the bipod out and drop into prone. So the bipod really came into clutch. Being able to, just fold like that, fold back like that. Skyline bipod was definitely a big win in my opinion, running it in this match. Like I said, you could very easily get by without a bipod, so that's not a huge deal. Other than that, that's about all I would change as far as the gear that I was running. Like I said, armband, suppressor, and that's basically it as far as that stuff goes. So I know this ain't like my typical video. This ain't something I'm putting out trying to get a bunch of views or a bunch of people to click on it. This is just, if you're looking to shoot a quantified performance match, maybe there's one in your area coming up and you end up clicking on this video, weeks or months or years down the road, just to kind of give you some perspective of what it was like to shoot one for the first time from somebody that had never competed in any sort of fashion with, any sort of gun competition. It was an absolute blast. I don't regret it a bit. I mean, I was smiling ear to ear the whole time we were shooting. It was very fast paced. I mean, everything was just super exciting. Everybody was great. I cannot recommend enough. You'll learn a ton just by shooting one. You meet a bunch of cool people. I know that a bunch of the guys that I was in the squad with, a bunch of them was sending me friend requests on Facebook afterwards. It's just a really good environment. It made me feel very welcome and relaxed. I didn't have to worry about the stress of the people. I could just worry about shooting. So like I said, it was absolutely a phenomenal experience. And if there is one in your area, I would highly recommend you shoot one. If you're local to South Carolina, come on and shoot one out at the sawmill. I'm gonna try to hit every single one of them that I can. Come shoot with me, look for my name, and when you go to sign up on Practice Score, my name is Gage Grizzle. So if you see my name, go ahead and squad up with me. I'd love to meet you, love to shoot one. If you're watching this video, really soon, I've got 2 more this year. Well, if you're a first timer, hey, I'm a newbie too. I've got one under my belt right now. So go ahead and squad up with me. I would love to shoot with you. That would be an absolute blast. You're more than welcome to try out any gear that I have, anything like that. Another thing, be sure to check the description. I'll have linked to John Ruge, Weapon Snatcher. I'll have linked to his training. He's got some classes coming up in June at the sawmill, so go ahead and come on out and learn some very useful information, useful tactics and tools that you can apply to yourself. I'll have my Instagram link down there as well. So like I said, I'm a gun gear photographer, so go ahead and hit that link, take you over to my Instagram page. That'll make sure that you don't miss any of the action going on across the board. And then I would really appreciate it if you would like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out, helps me you know, be able to go out and do this stuff, because ultimately it does cost money. You know, camera equipment costs money, the guns and the gear and all that stuff, it all costs money. So by you liking and subscribing, it helps me grow the channel and helps me fund this thing just a little bit better. So I would greatly appreciate it. Leave a comment, let me know if you've shot a match, and if you want to shoot one, any questions you might have about it, I would be more than happy to respond to those in the comments. Be sure to get down there and engage with other people. Makes it really helpful to me, since if I don't have to respond to every single comment, some of y'all can hop down there and answer questions for me. I really appreciate all the support that y'all have shown me, and I will catch you on the next one.